and welcome to the One More Thing podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Tristan. How you doing, buddy?
Great. How are you?
And we also have Dr. Troy Doucet.
What's going on?
So this was a really impactful and powerful weekend, and we're still in the Suncoast at the Movie series and The Lion King, and I wanted to start off with how nervous were you to speak in front of all those people?
Well, to start off, it was in the very beginning when I knew I was going to go. Before I went on, I was very nervous, like my hands were getting sweaty. But when I walked up those steps and was waiting for Pastor Troy to call me out, I just said a prayer, and just that relieved me. But my legs were still shaking after the first sermon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was some of the thoughts that were going through your head?
I was like, oh man, this better be good. There's so many people.
Yeah. What inspired you to bring Tristan on?
You know, we had conversations with Tristan before, after camp, and he had spoken to his mom about him feeling this sense of calling to become a pastor. And I knew a little bit about his background and the adoption process and the foster home situation, and a little bit of background with his biological parents. But as I was developing the sermon around the idea of remember who you are, and how a lot of times our past can often dictate a perceived future, a perceived how we perceive ourselves, how we come to see ourselves, and what are we worthy of, you know? And I thought it fit really well for him to kind of step in at 12 years old and say, hey, I have a past that isn't my fault.
Right.
And I'm not going to let it determine or dictate, who I am. And I think he reminded us of that in a powerful way, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think perspective is so important. And so yesterday afternoon, because my girls don't watch church because they're in the children's ministry area, we had them watch you speak. And they've obviously known you for a little while now, and so they were just taken aback. Perspective is so important because they see you as this happy kid that's good at sports and just a nice little background. Tanner and Leighton play basketball together.
Yeah.
And Tristan did not play basketball on their team because you're older. And Tristan was the biggest cheerleader for those kids. So they'd come on a break, and he'd come and just high five all of them, and you just have such an encouraging spirit.
Thank you.
You're a very special kid.
Thank
and
you.
But you just have a good heart.
Thank you.
And that's really important for being a pastor and being in ministry. You just have to have a good heart for people, because if you don't, it's gonna be a hard road.
Yeah.
But no, that's really inspiring. So I know you kind of talked a little bit about it on stage, but what was the moment that you realized you kind of wanted to do this? Without ever speaking. I mean, have you ever spoken on stage before?
Not like that.
Yeah.
No, not really.
It kind of reminded me of when I wanted to be a worship leader. I just felt this calling, I just want to lead music.
Yeah.
And I told my youth pastor, and he's like, Ricardo, you've never sang or played a guitar in front of people before. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but that's what I want to do. So I can kind of relate to a little bit of that. But what was your, feeling towards why did you want to do this?
Well, when I went to summer camp, the sleepaway camp at Suncoast, and Pastor Troy came to speak to us, there was just that him talking and telling his story about being a pastor, and it just, something struck me and inspired me to want to spread the love of Jesus, because I feel that needs to be spread, because as people argue and stuff, they need to know to love each other as God did. So I feel I want to be a pastor to spread that so we can have more love in the world. That's kind of my main reason.
That's amazing. Well, you'll fit right in at Suncoast, because that's what we're talking about all the time.
Yeah.
We look at the world and we see so many issues going on, and we, as cheesy as it sounds, we'll just say the thing that can fix this is Christ's love. If we just embodied the lessons that Christ taught us, this world would be completely different. So that's super inspiring. And, there's that whole thing, Christ said, let the children come to me.
That's right.
There's something powerful when you have a perspective of a child that can say like something so simplistic as like, it's just love that needs to be. And it's like, wow,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, you're right, kid.
Yeah.
Like, it's just this amazing reminder. So Pastor Troy, to you, what was the reason for Lion King?
Yeah, I think it goes back to, I think we always need a good reminder. Like we get lost in the busyness of life, you know, doing our own thing, and it's not necessarily we've done anything bad or what have you. I think Lion King lended itself to some of that bad things happen. But I think we just need a reminder of who we are, like who God is within us. And I love what Rafiki told Simba, like, your father lives in you. And I think that's our theology here at Suncoast.
Yeah.
God lives within us. And sometimes we have to look at ourselves not closely, but harder. We have to look harder because we can get busy. We can get distracted. We can get, depressed or whatever. And we can lose that reflection of who God is supposed to be inside of us. And I think that's why, Tristan's story was so powerful and why it resonated with so many people is that we're not looking hard enough at who God is in our life because of a bunch of stuff that may happen or anxiety about the future. So I have a question, like, what was the reception like after you get off of the stage and you've given this very powerful, like, God-driven testimony?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was the response? What did the community do? What did they say?
Well,
How did they react?
a lot of people said, like, you inspired me. Like, there's this one lady that said she just got reborn about 8 years ago, and that I'm probably the most important thing that happened within those 8 years of time, and I really opened her up and inspired her. And other people were like, I couldn't do that. Like, how did you do that? And I was just like, I don't know. But a lot of people said that, like, you definitely found your purpose in life and just keep doing what you're doing, and I'm doing a great job, and that just feels good to hear that. Yeah.
So how was it pulling up, like, some of these memories, man, that are hard memories? I mean, I know you're 12, but you talked about your parents, your biological parents taking you places, doing things that, not knowing where you're going to live or sleep, getting kicked out of Walmart for taking a bath in the sink. Like, how was it in your heart, your mind, as you're writing your testimony out to kind of have to bring those memories back to the forefront?
It was kind of hard, and just, I don't know. I had to really power through it. Like, I remember one time I was practicing, and I did it, and I just started crying because I just remembered everything that happened. But, like, when I was on that stage, I did hold back a few tears, but it was hard just trying to tell everyone that story. But I definitely think I have more God within me to, like, not cry anymore, because I remember in the past where I would talk about them or things like that, I would just start crying, like I said on stage. But now I know, like, God is with me, so, like, it's more calmed down right now. It's not as bad, but I still had to hold back a few tears from crying because it's pretty bad past.
Yeah. It's awesome, man.
Yeah, there's a big maturity in understanding, like, the suffering when you're in it is terrible, but looking back and being thankful for the suffering because it gave you perspective on life. There's that old saying, I think it's Young, that says, in order to reach heaven, your roots have to go down to hell. And so perspective is an amazing thing. You've lived a lot of life in your short 12 years already, and it's given you a different perspective. And I'm thankful that you were able to share your story, and I'm thankful that you came out of it and you met Autumn and have this amazing life, because now you'll be thankful for it. You just have a different perspective than a lot of kids, and it opened up a lot of conversations. Even with my girls, I was able to, because my sister was adopted, and it was just, we were able to open up the conversation about adoption and what that means, and it was really good, really powerful stuff. And before we end today, is there anything that you'd like to say to the community? One more thing?
Just try to find God within you. And if you're going through hard times, like I went through, just try to find God within you. And he will definitely be with you every single step of the way, like he was with me. That's what I take away from it.
It's powerful stuff, man.
Good, man.
Yeah. Well, great job this weekend,
Thank
both
you.
of you.
Yeah.
And we're back this weekend with another Suncoast at the Movies, the final one.
Last one.
So people will be sad because there will be no more popcorn on Sunday morning.
That's right.
So,
That's right. No more popcorn.
but what do we got? What do we got
This
coming
week
up?
it's Rocky. So band will be rocking some Eye of the Tiger, man. Rocky Face Off. And we're going to be talking about tough times, like how to push through. Where do we get our strength from? Where do we get our courage from? So
Amazing. Well,
it'll be good.
thank you guys so much for being
Thank you.
on. And thank you for joining me on the One More Thing.
Thank you
Awesome.
for having me.